Discuss this with me is Senator David Vitter. He's a Republican from Louisiana and one of the leading voices in opposition to this Gang of Eight legislation. Is it really all about border security at this point?
Well, thanks for the invite, Scott. I appreciate it. I think it is all about enforcing the law. That's at the border. It's also at the workplace. It's also with an entry-exit system for visas. I think it is all about that. When I talk to Americans and Louisianians, they roughly say exactly what your poll shows. They want comprehensive reform in the sense that they want to fix the whole problem, but they think the way to get there is enforcement first. Prove that out because it's failed every time in the past. The federal government has never kept its promises, and then move on.
So what you're saying, the real measure of success would be some period of time without a new wave of illegal immigration.
Correct. I think it needs to be proved out, verified, if you will, trust but verify. And I think there needs to be some meaningful trigger before we move on to anything else. And that trigger can't just be, for instance, an Obama administration official saying everything's okay, because they say that already.
Well, let's be, it wouldn't make a whole lot of difference. People wouldn't trust it if there was a Republican in the White House either. It's not just the Obama administration.
No, it has to be something broader than that, like maybe a vote of Congress.
Okay. Now, in the Senate right now, you have this Gang of Eight legislation. Yeah. It was widely expected to pass with big margins a couple of months ago. Now it's looking a little dicier. Where do you see things stand?
Well, I think the key is how does this play out over the next 3 weeks and how tuned into the American people get in terms of the details. If folks don't really tune into the debate and the atmosphere politically in terms of the national debate stays about where it is now, it probably passes a cloture vote. But if folks really tune in and begin to say, wait a minute, there's no guarantee of enforcement. Wait a minute, these folks can get the child tax credit immediately after the big amnesty. I think that's going to change a lot of votes.
Senator Marco Rubio, Republican from Florida, is one of the leading voices in the Gang of Eight. I know you agree with him on some things, but not on this particular issue. He's been saying if it's not changed, he's not going to vote for it. What's going on with Senator Rubio?
Well, that's a good question. You know, the natural question is if he felt that way, why is his name on the bill now? But I hope he's moving in that direction because I think it's the right direction, and I agree with him that there need to be major changes to the bill, like a meaningful enforcement trigger for us to be able to consider it.
You would vote for immigration reform. You would vote for legalizing the status of people who have been here already if the border security came first, if it actually worked.
Yes, if it worked. I want to solve the problem. What I don't want to do is what the 1986 immigration reform bill did, which is not only not solve the problem or continue the problem, it quadrupled the problem. What was 3 million illegals then is an 11 or 12 million problem now.
What does it take to secure the border?
Well, first of all, real border enforcement. What it mostly takes is political will. I think the biggest ingredient missing, particularly under the Obama administration, is the will to enforce. And they have issued several orders that back away from enforcement. But secondly, I would also underscore we need enforcement at the workplace. We need a system where you can't get a job in the country unless you're a citizen or someone here legally. And we need the U.S. visit system, which is an entry-exit visa system that polices those entrances and exits. Those are the 9/11 terrorists who overstayed their visas.
You'll have this debate in the Senate. From what you sound like you still think there's a pretty good chance something will get through the Senate.
I think it's a big question mark, and I think that
better than 50-50?
I'm not sure, because I really think things are going to change when the American people start to tune in, and I do think they'll tune in, particularly when amendments are put up. And if some of those common sense amendments are defeated, then folks are going to say, wait a minute, time out. Why was that defeated? How can you be for a bill that doesn't include that basic common sense protection?
What about if it gets through the Senate? Is there any chance the House would pass a bill that could be reconciled with it?
I think that's a long ways off. As you know, the chairman of the House committee has said he wants to take a fundamentally different approach, a step-by-step approach. Let's pass a bill about this issue, then let's pass a bill about that issue, enforcement first. That's a fundamentally different approach. So right now, I'd be surprised if that could lead to a productive sort of conference committee, if you will.
Senator, I'll be watching this carefully in the next couple of weeks. Thanks for taking the time.